Hey friends, thank you for watching this video. I am Muhammad and today we're gonna continue building our Saha API app. Today we're gonna be implementing refresh token. So let's jump into it. So today we're gonna be continuing building our Saha application, and the main focus for today's video is we're gonna be adding the refresh token capability to our authentication mechanism. So before we jump into the code, what we're gonna do first is we're gonna just do a quick recap at what is a refresh token and why do we need it and what's the main benefit of it. And we're gonna be checking the Jira board as well to make sure that everything is aligned there. So let's start first with our Jira board, and then we can move to a bit of an explanation of refresh token and how does it fit in, and then we're gonna be jumping into the code. So inside our Jira board, we have here our refresh token ticket. And we can see here that we have some of the items that we need to follow. Basically, update the login and register actions, create a new method for generating the refresh token, create some new DTOs, update the database, and basically update the unit of work. Okay, great. So that seems pretty reasonable. So let us open our draw.io from last time. And basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be updating this graph in order for us to explain what is JWT token, what is the refresh token and how we can utilize it. So let us basically do this. Let's take these and let's paste them. Okay, and let's remove these, we don't really need them now. So this is a user, instead of an actor we'll call them user. So that's the user, and let us take one of these nice arrows. Okay, so we have this user right now who wants to actually log into the application. So once they log into the application, let's do it like this, and let's do it like this. Okay, so once this user wants to log into the application, they're gonna be sending some credentials. So basically they're gonna be sending username and a password. Once that credential reaches the API, they're gonna be basically doing all of the right configuration that we did, all of the right checking that we did before. Check if this username exists, check if the password is valid, and based on that, the next step is they're gonna be generating a refresh token. They're gonna be generating a JWT token, and they're gonna be sending it back to the user. Generate JWT token, and this JWT token they're going to be sending it back to the user. And now after that, whenever the user wants to do any action, so let's say right now the user wants to do get information, for example. Whenever the user wants to do a get information, the user needs to attach the token to the header, to verify that this user is actually a valid user, and so the API will know which person is sending this request. But the issue is a JWT token is a short-lived token. What does that mean? A short-lived token means that it lives for a very short amount of time, for example a maximum of 5 minutes. So whenever that token expires, the user here right now, what does it need to do? It needs to log in back again to get a new token. But that's not a very good user experience. Imagine if you're using a mobile application and, for example, let's say you're using Instagram, and every 5 minutes Instagram requires you to authenticate again in order for you to continue using the application. And that's not a very good user experience. So how can we solve this problem? By utilizing something called a refresh token. So what is a refresh token? A refresh token is basically an extra token that the API sends us whenever we log in. And that token, the refresh token, basically allows us to generate a new JWT token in the background without requiring the user to log in again. So the flow will be something like this. So let us basically take this, we'll make them as a, no, not this, let's take this one, and let's make a diagram of how it works. So first of all, we're gonna have this nice arrow, and let's put this here, let's put this here, and here we're gonna put user login. So this is the user, and the user right now wants to log in. So once the user wants to log in, as we said, they send the credential. The API here will verify the credentials. Let's put it like this. Let's move this. And let's make this a bit bigger. So the API here now what's gonna do is gonna verify the credentials. And if the credentials are correct, the next step for this is it's gonna be basically returning a JWT token to the user. Return a JWT token and a refresh token. Both of them it's gonna return. Let's make this on a new line. Okay, so the API is gonna return a JWT token and refresh token. If it doesn't work, it's just gonna put a hard stop here. Stop the user. And this one basically is gonna come here and stop the user. Let's make this red so we know it's the hard stop. Okay. So right now, this user has got back the JWT token and they are basically able to continue. So once that's done, let's say now the user wants to do any request to the server. So let's take this one for example, and we can make this get user information. So we can make this a bit bigger, and we can say here the get information. And right now the user, what do they need to do? They need to send the JWT token with it. So once that JWT token has actually being sent to here, what's the API gonna do? So let's take this one and put it here. The API is gonna do the following. First, the API is gonna check if it's a valid JWT token. So once it checks if it's a valid JWT token, let's make this like this. So if it is valid, the next step it's gonna be the API is gonna check the time, the expiry date. So first of all, we said it's gonna check if it has a valid JWT token. If not, it's gonna stop processing the request and it's gonna send a 401 request to the user. So here it's gonna send, let's put a 401, an unauthorized, similar here, a 401. So then it's gonna check, after it checked that the JWT token is valid, it's gonna check the expiry date. So if the expiry date is correct, let's copy this one. So if the expiry date is correct, what is it gonna do? Basically, it's gonna process the request. Process the request. Let's make this a bit bigger. And once it's processed the request, it's gonna send back to the user the results. So basically, we'll just have, which one can we make it as a nice result? Okay, let's make an arrow with a JSON. So basically, it's gonna return a JSON back to the user, which is gonna be the result, and it's gonna send it back to the user. So let's make it like this. And here we're gonna put sends back the result. Great. So that's the if everything went well. But in case the expiry date has the JWT token has expired, what is it gonna do? It's gonna return back. Return. So it's gonna have more steps before we do this. Let's take this one. So without actually having a refresh token, the API is gonna return an expired token. And here, once the API returns an expired token, the user will need to do two things. So what's the user is gonna do? If check for refresh token. So if that user have a refresh token, they're gonna be able to, let's take this one, and basically if they have a refresh token, they will be able to exchange the refresh token for a new JWT token. JWT token. So that's gonna be the best case scenario. And once they wanna exchange, what do they need to do? Let's continue with this. So once they exchange it, they're gonna send it back to the API, and the API basically it's gonna take the JWT token, it's gonna take the refresh token, and basically after all of that, it's gonna generate a new JWT token and a refresh token. It's gonna generate a new JWT token and a new refresh token. So with every unique JWT token, there's a unique refresh token for it. We cannot reuse refresh tokens for multiple JWT tokens. It doesn't work like that, because every JWT token is unique. A refresh token needs to be unique as well. So within these steps right now, so basically what we did is we want to exchange the refresh token for a new JWT token. So we send this to the API. The API will take a JWT token and a refresh token, and then it generates for us a new token, and then it sends this back to the client. So once it sends it back to the client, so we can do it like this instead of like redrawing it. So this will be something like, let's move this a bit to the right side. Let's put it here. And basically this is gonna do this. So it's gonna take all of this, and apologies, let's make this a bit smaller so I'll be able to connect it. But basically this, it's gonna connect to this. So basically once it has a new JWT token available for it, it's gonna start to do another request again. So it's gonna send another request for the user in order for it to get the information that it needs. So it's gonna be like a full circle. But in case here it doesn't have a refresh token, what's gonna happen is gonna basically stop the application from continuing to process. So we can do this right here, and it's gonna stop. So, and in case it went down to this case right here, once it stopped the user, it's gonna ask the user to log in again, and the process is gonna start all over again. So this is gonna be the flow. A user wants to log into our application and get some kind of information. Once the user log in, they're gonna get a JWT token and a fresh token. So basically once the user wants to get certain information, they need to send the JWT token. Once they send the JWT token, the API is going to check if this JWT token is a valid token or not. So if it's not a valid token, it's going to stop the user, they return a 401, else it's going to continue with the next step. It's going to check the expiry date for it. If the expiry date is is valid, so the token is still valid within the time to live that it has, because as we said, a JWT token is a short-lived token, so it has a certain amount of time that it's available. So it's going to process the request and send back the results as a JSON file or any type of file that we want back to the user. If the JWT token has expired, what is it going to do? Basically, it's going to return back to the user telling them the JWT token has expired, and the user here, what do they need to do? Basically, they need to check if they have a refresh token. If they don't have a refresh token, they're gonna be basically signed out and the user needs to be logged in again. If they do have a refresh token, this refresh token is sent back to the API with a JWT token. The JWT token and the refresh token we're gonna be exchanged for a new JWT token and a new refresh token. So once those exchanged, they are sent back. Let's put that here. The new tokens are sent back to the user. And once the tokens are sent back to the user, we're gonna go back to the same checking of the information and check this one here, and if they actually all went through, we're gonna send it back to the user. So this is what we did. This is basically the steps that we want to follow right now. And well, on top of that, we have another item that we need to discuss here. As we said, JWT tokens are basically short-lived tokens. As we said, short-lived token. They only live for a certain amount of time and a maximum of 5 minutes. That's the recommended amount of time. But a refresh token is a long-lived token. Long-lived token. And this probably can be from 1 month to 6 months, for example. So from 1 month to 6 months. We can make it anything you want, but usually it's a long-lived token. It means that it's going to be living for a long period of time. So why is it so much different? Why is it only going to be for 1 month to 6 months? So let us discuss the Instagram scenario again. So we have logged into our application on Instagram for the first time, and we are using the application. And then we put our phone away. For example, after a few hours, we got a notification and we want to check our Instagram again. So whenever we open the application, the original JWT token that we got from Instagram has expired. But Instagram has given us as well a refresh token. So the refresh token that Instagram has given us, as soon as we click on the application, is being sent to Instagram server. It's going through the almost same process that we have right now here. And basically it checked that our refresh token is valid, our JWT token has expired, but it was valid, and then it's gonna send us back a new JWT token. And once it sends us back a new JWT token, we are able to check our feed and basically pull up all of the new information on Instagram. So this is why refresh token is really important, because let's say we're checking our social media, for example, Instagram twice a day. We don't really want to, or 3 times a day. We don't really want to log in two times or 3 times a day. We just want the seamless integration and the seamless process of basically giving the user the information that they wanted, if they are actually authorized and they actually have the right information to access. So that's why refresh token is really important. So for example, 5 minutes or like for the JWT token is not enough to give us that. But the long-lived token, which is going to be the refresh token, is more than enough. So for example, if we don't use Instagram for 6 months on our phone, it's going to force us to relog in again. But if, for example, if it was 24 hours without using it, that's going to be within the time period of the refresh token lifetime, because it's a long-lived token. So we're directly able to reauthorize and basically get the information that we need. So that's why refresh token is really important, specifically if we're going to provide a seamless user experience without compromising the security of our application. So now that we have explained the quick overview of what is a refresh token, how does the process work, and how does it fit into our current implementation, we're going to be basically now going to the source code and basically updating the source code in order for us to accommodate a refresh token implementation. So now let's jump into it. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code. And let us open our terminal. Let's open our API and let us go to our API and just build our application to make sure that everything is building as it should be. So .NET build. Perfect. Now what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna go to the startup class, and the first thing that we're gonna be doing is we need to add some more information here. So let's see, where have we left it off? Okay. Okay. So let us do some updates on this. So the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating something called the var. We're going to be creating basically a token validation parameter similar to what we have done there, but we're going to be removing it from the actual service. So it's going to be token validation parameters equal new token validation parameters. And let us copy the things that we already have there, and then we can build it on top of that. So let's copy these and let's put them here, and as well let us take the key from here, let's remove it from here. We're just doing a bit of reorganization to make it as neat as possible and more organized than it was before. So basically we put this out, the validation issuing signing key we need it, true, the issuing signing key that we have done before, everything needs to be false except the validation lifetime. Okay, great. So once we have done that, now what we're going to be doing is we're going to put services dot add singleton, and we're going to pass the token validation parameters. So first of all, before we do this, let's copy this back here and let us remove this implementation and put this here. Okay, so you might be asking yourself, what's wrong with this one? Local environment. I think this one needs this, but we needed to put the semicolon. So you might be thinking to yourself, okay, why did we remove this from the initial added bearer token authorization and we added it here and we added as a singleton? Because these values that we have here, basically the secret, the token validation parameters, we're going to be using them inside our controllers. And instead of us recreating them and initializing them again, what we can do is we can put them as singleton access. So basically, if you don't know the dependency injection, so because we're using it as a singleton, these basically gonna be available for us anywhere in our application without the need to regenerate the objects. I have a different video where actually I delve into dependency injection in more details. I will link it here somewhere so you can check it out. But basically here what we're doing is we're injecting this object to our dependency injection, so we are able to access it anywhere inside our application. And this way basically we are optimizing our access and basically removing some duplication of our code. So once we have done that, we have injected into our the DI container. So we can put here injecting into our DI container, which is basically dependency injection container. And after we have done that, basically we just added it back where we removed it, which is here into the JWT bearer authentication. Perfect. So once we have done that, the next step for us is we need to update our app settings. So inside our app settings here, from last time we have added the secret for our JWT configuration. What we're going to be doing right now is we're going to be adding the expiry time, because we want to make the configuration of our JWT token automatically generated or automatically configured from our configuration. So let us add here, we're going to put expiry time frame. And basically, as we said before, JWTs are short-lived token, so we can make them, for example, a minute, 30 seconds, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but not more. 5 minutes, I think, is going to be the max. So I think for now, just for testing purposes, let us put it as 30 seconds, and we can actually build from that. If we want, we can change it to a minute, and so on and so forth. But right now, because we are in development mode, it's good for us to make it short so we can actually see the entire flow happening as we should. Okay, great. So after updating this here, we need to update the actual
JWT config that we had before. So let's go to the startup and let us navigate to that one. I think we automatically injected it here. So let's go to this definition. And we need to add the same thing that we have added here. So expiry time frame. And we need to make it as a prop. And it's going to be a time span. And we're going to code the same exact thing. I think we need to fix these references. Time span, not spam. And using system. Perfect. So now we have updated our JWT config. The next step is we're gonna go into our auth management or accounts controller basically, and within our account controller we're gonna be updating this, and so we will contain the JWT, the JWT and the refresh token configuration. So first let us go to the generate JWT method that we have generated earlier. Where was it? So it should be at the end. Okay, this is the method that we have done before, which basically take the identity user, it goes through the entire checks, and basically at the end of it, it will generate a JWT token for us and send it back. So here what we're going to be doing is we're going to be updating this method so it will incorporate a refresh token with it. The first change that we're going to be doing here is we need to update this expiry time that comes with the JWT token to actually be based on the JWT configuration that we have added in the app settings. So what are we going to be doing right now? So we're just going to change this from add hours to add, and basically we're going to take the configuration from the JWT config and add it here. So we're going to put underscore JWT config.expiry time frame, and because this is a time span, it will be automatically be added here. So if let's say the time span will be like 2 hours, it will automatically be recognized because this is the format of a time span, and because we have defined it in the JWT config as a time span, it will be automatically be taken from here and basically added as a time span to our expiry date. So that was the first thing that we want to add here. Now what we need to do is we need to update our return class. So if we go here, we can see basically that for the user register response DTO and for the user logged in DTO, let's go to see them. So let's navigate here. And we can see they are taken from the auth results, and if we navigate here, we can see that we have token, we have success, and we have list of errors. So what we need to do is we need to update this so it will contain JWT token, refresh token with it. So let's do prop string, and we're gonna put refresh token. So once we have done that, basically we have updated our return models for both the user login and user registration to contain the refresh token with them, which is what we wanted. Great. The next step is adding some DTOs, because as we said, let's go back to our diagram. I think this was it. Yes. So as we said here, in case the refresh token has expired and we want to send back, we need to actually create this DTO here. So let's put this in blue that we need to create it. We need to create this DTO which will accept JWT token and the refresh token, so we are able to process them and generate a new one. Currently we don't have that, so what we're going to be doing is, if we go back to Visual Studio Code, inside our incoming, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be actually creating this DTO, and in order for us to be able to take a token and a refresh token. So inside the incoming, we're going to create a new class, and we're going to call it token request. And inside, not sure where it went, but let's try to add it again. New class, token request. Okay, let's create a new file, token request.cs, and basically we can take all of this, paste it, and change this one to token request. And basically here, instead of having an email, we're gonna have the token, and instead of having a password, we're gonna have the refresh token. And the implementation for this we have not created yet. We're just creating basically the models that the application is gonna take in order for us to process it. We're gonna add this action to our accounts controller later on. So now that we have that, the next step for us is gonna be actually updating our database for it to store those refresh tokens and basically keep track of these refresh tokens. So inside our Soha notebook entities, inside our DB set, let us create a new class and we're gonna call it refresh token. Okay, I'm not sure why this is not working, so let's create a new file and we're gonna call it refresh token.cs, and let's take basically this one, control A, copy, and let's paste this here, and this is gonna be refresh token. And basically we don't need any of this because we're gonna be filling the required information for the refresh token. So the information for the refresh token, they're gonna be as follow. So we said every base, let's see what's inside our base entity. It's gonna contain ID, status, updated date, and added date. Okay, that should be fine. So let's keep that and let us add more stuff. So the first thing we're gonna be taking is gonna be the user ID. So we're gonna put a string of a user ID. The second one, it's gonna be basically the token that has this JWT token attached to it. So string, and it's gonna be token. And next, basically, we're gonna add the JWT ID because it has been generated from that. So we're gonna put string again, and gonna put JWT ID, and this JWT ID is the one that we are sending it back when we create the JWT token. So let's go back to our accounts controller so I can exactly show you which one it is. So where is the generate? Okay, here. So we can see here that for every JWT ID we are basically generating an ID and sending it back. So GTI, this is it. So basically this one here is what we want to save there. So because actually as we said before, it's going to be used by the refresh token. So this is why the GT is really important here, and this is why we are actually adding them to the refresh token table. So the reason we're having a table, I didn't explain that. The reason we're having a table is we need to keep track of all of the tokens that's coming in and out, and we need to keep track every refresh tokens belong to which JWT token. As well, we need to keep track of the expiry date, and all of this logic needs to be saved somewhere. For this reason, we're actually saving it in the JWT token table. And the refresh token table. This table here is gonna get very big really fast. So we're gonna afterwards we're gonna add some kind of implementation to keep cleaning up this table so we don't just bombard it with expired tokens and keep that token data forever. We can actually archive it, but we're gonna worry about that later on after we do the current implementation. So right now let's add more stuff here. So let us add some comments as well. So this one here is going to be the user ID when logged in. And this is going to be the ID generated when a JWT ID has been requested. Okay, great. The next step, basically, we need to check if this refresh token has been used or not, because we need to make sure that because every refresh token, although it's a long-lived token, is only used once. We cannot reuse it. So we're gonna make it is used, and basically we're gonna make it here to make sure that the token is only used once. The next one is we're gonna see if it's been revoked or not. So again, bool, because what is revoked? What does that mean? So let's say I'm using, let's take Instagram example again. So let's say I have two mobile phones and my web browser. So I have logged in to my mobile through my two mobile phones to Instagram. So right now these two mobile phones will have a JWT token and a refresh token each, as well as I logged into Instagram through my web browser as well. So now we have 3 JWT tokens and we have 3 refresh tokens, all belonging to the same account on 3 different devices. What happens if I decide to that I want to log in from all of the accounts at the same time? So I want to log in from my two mobile phones and I want to log in from my web browser at the same time. So in order for us to do that, we need to actually revoke those keys, and basically mean that we want to make them invalid. So we are revoking them. And the way we can actually track if these JWT token has and refresh token has been revoked or not. So basically JWT token, they're gonna be expired either way, but the refresh token, because they are long-lived token, we need some kind of flag inside those token mechanism where we store them to make sure they are to flag them if they are revoked or not. So that's why we need to add this field if they are to check if they are revoked or not. So bool again, and we're gonna say it's revoked, and basically just make sure they are valid. Okay, once we have done that, now we need to basically, we already have the added date, where now we need to add the expiry date. So prop, and it's gonna be date time UTC. I think it's gonna be UTC date time. Let's add using the system, it's already there. Let's take it from the base entity. So it's gonna be date time, and we're gonna here put the expiry date, because every refresh token, although it's a long-lived token, is gonna have an expiry date. And basically once we have done that, the next step for us is we want to link these tokens with basically the users table that has been generated with the identity framework. So how can we do that? What we're gonna do is we're gonna put a foreign key, and we're gonna name it user ID, and we're gonna link this foreign key directly to the identity user. So public identity user gets set. So I think for this one, what we need to do is we need to, first of all, let's see. Yes, I think for this one, we need to add the identity model here. So in order for us to have the identity user here, we need to add a new package. So let's navigate to this project, CD, and it's gonna be called CD صحة notebook.entities, and inside of here we're gonna put .NET add package. It's gonna be the same one that we have added here, so let's copy it. So we're gonna take this one, Microsoft ASP.NET Core identity.ui. So let's copy this and let's paste this here. Okay, great. Now if we come back here and let us add a reference. Okay, perfect. Once we have added this, let's navigate back to our main application, CD صحة notebook API, and we could .NET build. I think there's an issue. Why is it detected package downgrade? Okay, let's see what package version we have here. So here it's 11, inside our application, what do we have? We have 10. So okay, let's update these to 11. Maybe there was an update within the last few days. And let's save this and let us try to build again. Okay, still an error. Let's see what's the error. Unable to find package, the versioning one. So let's leave this back to 10. Okay, I can't remember what it was. Let's see. Okay, so this one was 0, 0. Okay, let's make this as an 11. And let's make this as an 11. And let's make this as an 11. Let's see this if this will work. Okay, great. So now that we have updated these to the latest version, we can make sure that they are running. So once we have done that, the next step for us is we need to create some migrations. To start with the migration, the first thing we need to do is we need to go to the application DB context. And basically here what we want to do is we want to add the refresh tokens table. So it's going to be public virtual DB set. It's going to be refresh token, and we're going to put refresh tokens get and set. Save these. Okay, great. And now let us go back to our applications. It's going to be cd. It's going to be not application, to our data service class library, saha.data service, and we're going to put .NET EF migrations. Add, we're going to give it a name of adding refresh tokens. We're going to give it the startup project, and this is going to be the Saha notebook.api, and this should create a migration script for us. Okay, let's update that after, and then now what we can do is .NET EF database update. We're going to specify the startup project as well. Saha notebook.api, and now we're updating our database. Build started. Okay, we'll update it. Okay, perfect. Now if we open our database, so let us open DB Beaver. Open. I think it should still be pointing out to the latest one, but let us check. And let's open this table here. Open the table, and I'm not sure if this is the latest one. Let's see where this one is located. Edit connection. Okay, it's not there. It's not it. So cancel. Let's delete this. Disconnect first, and we'll do a delete. Yes, and now let's add a new one. It's gonna be SQLite. Next, let's browse, and we'll go to desktop, YouTube, episode 4, API. Okay, open. Let's test the connection. Perfect. Finish. And now if we open this, we go to tables, and we can see that we have the refresh token has been created for us. Perfect. Great, great. So the next step for us right now is what we need to do is we need to update our unit of work so they will take advantage of the refresh tokens, and we can actually then continue and update our controllers. I'm going to continue by updating our unit of work. So first of all, we're going to go to the iRepository folder, and basically we're going to create a new interface, and we're going to call it refresh token repository. Okay, let's do it like this. Refresh token repository. Will this work? Nope. Let's go simply add a new file. Refresh token repository.cs. Okay, and let's copy everything here and paste it here, and all we need to do is update this. So from users to refresh tokens, and here we need to make it refresh token, and let's update this naming here with an S. Okay, great. We don't want to introduce any new functionality right now inside of it, so that should be fine. So let's copy this, and let's go to iConfiguration, and let's add it here, and it's going to be something like this. Okay, great. Let's save this. And once we have done that, now we need to go to a repository folder. Let's copy this and paste it. So it's going to be refresh tokens repository. So what we can do is we can just take the word user and just replace it. Okay, seems fine. Okay, perfect. So now we have out of the box, or basically we copy pasted, we have the all, and that's it. Okay, let's keep it as this, and we can add anything we want later on, but let's keep it as simple as possible for now. So let's save this here. And the next step is we need to go to the iUnit of work, and we need to add it here. So let's copy this one, or what we can do is just public I refresh token repository, refresh tokens private set. And let's add this one here. It's gonna be refresh tokens private set. Okay, great. Okay, perfect. Okay, that's exactly what we want. And let's see here, everything is as it should. Okay, great. Now let us build the application to make sure that everything is building as it should be. So .NET build. Okay, perfect. Now let us go back to our controllers. So accounts controllers, and we're going to be updating here the generate JWT token in order for us to take advantage of the refresh token. Now inside our accounts controller, we're going to be injecting the token validation parameters because we're going to be utilizing them in our refresh tokens as well. We need to inject the unit of work. So let us start first by our token validation parameters. So it's going to be private read only token validation parameters, and we're gonna call underscore token validation parameters, and then we're gonna put private as well, read only unit of work. Great. So once we have done that, now let us update it here. So the first thing is gonna be the token validation parameters. It's going to be token validation parameter, and the unit of work is going to equal to unit of work without the one. Okay. Oh, actually we already have it. Oh, so we don't really need to initialize it here. I forgot that we have initialized in the basic class. Okay, perfect. So what we need to do is initialize the token validation parameter, and all we can do here is underscore token validation parameters equal the token validation parameter. Okay, great. So once we have done that, the next step is we need to update the generate JWT refresh token. So let's go back to that method. Generate JWT token, generate JWT token, perfect. So after we have generated the token here, let us actually do some work. So once we have generated this, the next step for us is we need to actually generate a refresh token. Should we add it here? That's a very valid question. Okay, let's generate it here, and basically we can utilize the new model that we have added, and that model will be able to send back the JWT token and the refresh token at the same time. Okay, so we're gonna create a new variable var. We're gonna call it refresh token equal new refresh token, and basically we're gonna be updating this. So added date equal datetime dot UTC now. Okay, great. And then basically what we're gonna be adding is let's see. So the token here is gonna be of type string, and basically this is gonna be the refresh token. And in order for us to use it, we need to generate like a random string. So let us put it empty right now, and we'll put a comma, create a method to generate a random string and attach a certain GUID. Okay, so that's for the token. Let's see what else do we have here. We have the user ID that we need to use, equal, I think, user.id. That should be fine. Let's check this out. Yes. And then let's see, is revoked equal false, is used equal false. So the status, let's leave it as 1 for now, because we don't really care about the status. It's just like information that we have. The JWT ID is basically gonna be token.id. Expiry date. So usually, as we said, the refresh tokens is a long-lived token, and it makes sense to make it for a long time as an expiry date. So let's make it as 6 months. So equal date time dot now dot UTC now. Let's make it UTC now dot add months, and this add months is gonna be equal to 6 months. Okay. Let's see what else do we still have. So user, we don't want to have it right now. Update date, we don't have it, and the ID we don't really want it because it's automatically going to be generated for us. So now let us go and add the method that we wanted to do, which is going to be basically create a random string. So after this method here, let us create a new one. And basically what we can do, we can make it private string random string generator, and basically we're gonna pass the length that we want to generate. Okay, and let us basically it automatically generate a new method for us. So that's interesting. Let's see how this is gonna work. Okay, I think Copilot created a method for us, which is really good. Let us check this out. So let's copy this one here, and we want to make the string generator of length 20 or maybe 25, and then basically let's attach a GUID to it. So what we can do is let us use string interpolation. We're gonna make it like this, and we'll make this like this, and let's take this inside. Okay, that's nice. And then what we can do is we can put underscore and let us have a random GUID. So GUID.new GUID. Simple as that. We don't really need this comment anymore. Okay, great. So once we have done that, the next step is we need to actually save this into our database. So let's call the unit of work. So await underscore unit of work. And then after that, we're gonna put await unit of work to complete async. And we can see that we have issues because this is not an async method. So let's make it an async method, and let's add here a task. Okay, great. Okay, perfect. And now what we need to do is we need to update the return model. So we already created a DTO, and basically we call it auth results. So let us use that, or what we can do is let's create a different model, and in order for us to just utilize it to pass information around. So instead of utilizing directly this auth results, I'm not really very comfortable with this. So let's create this one here, and we'll call it, let's create a new file, and we'll call it tokens token data.cs, and basically let's copy all of these, and let's paste it here, and instead of token request it's gonna be token data, and instead of incoming it's gonna be in the generic, and basically no thank you. And basically here we're gonna put the JWT token, and we have already the refresh token. JWT token and the refresh token. We don't really need these because they are only for internal requests. And I think that should be fine. Okay, now let's take this token data and let's go back to our controller. And here we put var token data equal new token data, and we can pass the two here. Let's fix those references under generic, that's correct. And basically we're gonna put here, okay, so we're gonna put, not sure, okay, token, token equal JWT token, and refresh token, it's gonna be equal to the refresh token that we have generated dot token. So equal refresh token dot token. Okay. I think here the T needs to be capitalized, so let's capitalize it. Oh, it's called JWT token, I remember. JWT. Is this what it's called? This is not it. It's gonna be under the token data. Yeah, JWT token like this. And let's put this here. Okay, why is it still complaining? Could not be found. Token data. Did we add the correct? So here, let's see. Okay, let's add this one. So here, instead of DTO, it's gonna be, sorry, instead of outcome, it's gonna be generic. And save this. Okay, now it worked. Perfect. So now instead of returning this JWT token, we're gonna be updating the task. Instead of returning a string, it's gonna be returning this new object. And here basically we need to update this to return the token data. And then the next step for us is we need to update those methods. So here, instead of actually returning the JWT token, directly the token, we'll have to put here that's gonna return the JWT token. And here we're gonna have some issues because we need to make this method async. Sorry, we need to await this method, and then next we need to update the refresh token. It's going to be equal to JWT token dot refresh token, and similarly here, so this needs to be awaited, and here the token needs to be dot JWT token, and the refresh token, sorry, not the region, the refresh token is going to be equal to token dot refresh token. Okay. Great. Let us build this to make sure that everything is building as it should be. So .NET build. Okay, perfect. Now let us open Insomnia and let us check if we're actually getting the refresh tokens. So Insomnia. Let's bring it to the screen. And basically, let's see here the dashboard. I think we already have the Saha notebook, and we already have the login and register. Great. So let us do the registration. So let's create a new user, and we'll call this user Goofy. I'm not sure what's Goofy's last name, so we'll just put it Disney, and we'll put it goofy@disney.com, and we're just gonna provide the same password as general, and let's put send. Do we have the method running? Let's check this. No, let's run this. So .NET run. Okay, let's go back to our Insomnia and let's send this request. Perfect. So as we can see here, we have the refresh, we have the token generated, and we have the refresh token generated for us. Great. So now let's check for the login functionality if we actually get the refresh token with it. So let's come here and let us use the normal login one that we currently have. So let us send this request, and we directly got it. So let's send again, and we're getting different information. Perfect. So that means that we're getting also refresh token on the login. Now the next method that we need to do is actually exchanging this refresh token for a new JWT token, and this is the now action that we need to build. So let us go back to Visual Studio Code. Let us stop this, and let us add a new action. So let us add it here. So this action is going to be HTTP post, because we're going to post information. And the route is going to be refresh tokens. That's correct. And basically we need to build right now our action. So we're going to put it as public async task iAction result. We're going to put refresh token. And basically right now what we're going to be doing is we're going to put the from body. And then basically we already created the incoming here, did we? So no, we didn't. So let's create this right now. No, we have token request. So let's use token request. So let's check this. What does it have? Yeah, let's use token request. From body we'll put token request. Let's add DTO so it will actually are we using this anywhere else? No. So let's add the word DTO for it so it will match the naming convention. And let's add it inside here so it will have DTO as well. And here let us make this token request DTO. And once we have done that, let us actually create this object. So we can say token request DTO, and let us actually start building it. So the first thing that we're going to be doing, did we add here the required? Yes. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is we need to check the model. So if model state dot is valid, it means that we have actually a valid request. If not, we're going to be sending a bad request. So let us copy this and we'll return it, because a bad request is a bad request. Perfect. Now, in case everything is fine, what we need to do is we need to check if this, we need to verify basically the tokens that we got. So the first thing we need to do is check if the token is valid. And how are we going to doing that? We're going to put var result equal, we need to create a new method. We're going to call it verify token. And we're going to pass the actual token request to it. DTO, and that's it. Now let's create this method. Okay, before the generate token, we'll just create this method here. It's gonna be private async task, and basically what are we gonna return? We're gonna return the auth result if it's valid or not. I think maybe we can change it later, so it's gonna be auth result DTO, no auth result. And basically we're gonna call it verify token, and we're gonna take the token request DTO. I'm gonna call it token request DTO, and okay, we don't really need this right now, so let's start first. So the first thing is we need to get the token, the actual key that we want to verify. So we're gonna call var, it's gonna be token handler, and equal new JWT security token handler. Perfect. Now we're gonna go into try catch. And first of all, what we're gonna be doing is we need to check the validity of this token. So what does mean the validity of the token? We need to check that the actual token that has been sent to that method or to that action to get a new JWT token is an actual JWT token that we have generated. It's not like a just random string that has been sent to us. So how do we do that? So first of all, what we need to do is we need to utilize the token handler that we have created. So it's going to be var principal equal token handler dot validate token, and basically what we need to do is we need to pass the token request TTO dot token comma, and then we're gonna be basically sending the token parameters, token validation parameter, and basically the last thing is we're gonna be out var validate the token. And basically what this is gonna do is we're gonna utilize the token security handler that we have here, and then we're utilizing a method inside of it which is called token validate handler. And then once we have done that, we're passing the JWT token that we have been passed to us, and then we're taking the token validation parameters that we have got in here, these ones, and once we have done all of that, we're basically generating a new outcome, a new output which is called validated token, so we can actually utilize it, which is going to be the security token. Let me see if I can make the font a bit bigger. Okay, let's make this a bit bigger. Okay, let's close this. Okay, so once we have done that, the next step is we need to actually validate the results that this generated for us. So let's say here we need to validate the results that has been generated for us. So if we're gonna utilize the validated token that has been in an out variable, validated token is basically that will tell us if it is a JWT token or not. So it's gonna be a JWT security token, whereas JWT security token. So we're gonna check if this variable that we have generated is an actual JWT security token or not. And if it is, we're gonna save it into this variable. If not, we're just gonna return an error. So if it is, what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna put var result equal. Now we need to check if it has the correct encryption algorithm that we have already generated. So first of all, what we did is we actually checked if that string is a JWT string. That's the first thing. The second step is we need to check if that JWT string has been created through the same encryption algorithm that we currently have. If it has, we'll continue. If not, we'll return another request. So var equal JWT security token dot handler. And what we can do, let me add the comments after this, but let's us try this first. Dot algorithms dot equal. So right now what we're doing is we're taking this variable that we have here and we are matching it to the algorithm that we had before. And basically it's gonna be security algorithms dot HMAC 256. That's one that we used, HMAC SHA 256. And then we're basically gonna put string comparison dot invariant culture ignore cases. That's it. So here let us add more comments. Validate if the string is an actual JWT token, not a random string. And basically here it's gonna be basically check if the JWT token is created with the same algorithm as our JWT token. Perfect. So once we have done this check, now we need to check if it's true or false, because basically this is only gonna give us a true or false variable. So if result equal false, what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be returning a null value because it did not meet our requirement, return null. And we're gonna stop the processing here. So let's make it something like this, a bit more tidier, and something like this. Okay, so this is the first check that we need to do. So what we did here, let's do a quick recap. So we created a token handler so we can actually validate the JWT token parameters. We created a principal, and from the token handler we did the validate token to make sure that it's an actual JWT token. And basically what it does, it takes the token, it takes the validation parameters, and then it pops out a security token. And once it pops out the security token, if it actually matches, what we're doing here, we're actually checking if it's an actual valid security token or it's going to be null. If it is, we're saving it into this variable called JWT security token. And once we're doing it there, we're checking the algorithm of the security token that exists there with the one that we actually utilize to generate tokens. So if all is correct, we continue. If not, we return null. So now let's continue to the next step, and basically we need to check the expiry date. We need to check the expiry date of the token. Great. So how are we gonna check the expiry date? Very easy. So we're gonna put var UTC, because we utilize UTC to check the expiry date, equal long dot parse, and we're gonna utilize the principal dot claims dot first or default, and basically we're gonna have the condition that we're gonna be matching on. So x dot type equal JWT registered claims name dot expiry date, and then we're gonna get the value, and this is it. So let us recap before we continue on this. So if you remember from the generate JWT token here, what we did is this way. This is it. So you can see for the expiry, and if you can tell here, we have utilized the security token descriptor that expired, which is basically a value in UTC. What we did is we have added the date time in UTC time, and we added the expiry time frame that we wanted to, which is have an order automatically been set inside the app settings. So this one here is basically a claim that we currently have, and what we're doing in the validation process is we're actually connecting to the principals, which is this one from that JWT token that we have passed. We're checking the claims, and then we're trying to match, because it's a list of claims. If we hover here, we can see it's a list of claims, enumerable. And basically we're trying to match to see which claim is actually getting the expiry, and based on that we're getting the value of that so we can actually test it. And because it's gonna be it's a UTC, so it's gonna be a number, so we're converting it to long so we can actually test against it. So once we have done that, the next step for us, it's gonna be basically to convert this UTC to an actual date, and we can check it. So convert to date to check. So it's gonna be var expiry date equal Unix time Unix timestamp to date time. We need to create this method, which basically it means that it will take the Unix time, it will convert the actual date time so we can actually utilize it, and we're gonna pass the UTC expiry date. Let us create this one. Let's create it here. So it's gonna be private date time Unix, okay, and it's gonna take a long Unix date time. Unix date we're gonna call it, and basically what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna put var date time okay, date time equal new date time, and we're gonna basically take it from the beginning of the UTC time, which is 1970, 1st of January 1970. So we're gonna put 1970. Then we're gonna pass the month, which is gonna be Jan, and then we're gonna pass the day, which is gonna be the first, and then we're gonna pass the calendar 0, and then we're gonna pass the minute 0, and then the second 0, and then we're gonna pass the date time kind. I think we should also put it as 0, and then the milliseconds, which is gonna be 0, and I think we're gonna make it, so that's how many zeros, 1 2 3 4 5, and I think we're gonna put date time kind dot UTC. Okay, so 1 2 3, I think this one we can remove. Yeah, so we have the year, the month, the day, and then basically what we have here is all of the rest, so our time, our minutes, milliseconds, so on, and seconds, and then we can put it as UTC. So once we have done that, let us just add these nice spaces so they will look nice. And now we're gonna utilize this date time to actually add the seconds from that one, because as we said, UTC is basically the number of seconds from 1st of January 1970s, and we need to do this comparison, and we need to convert this Unix date time into an actual date. So based on that, so here the date time here is the actual starting date, and we need to add the number of seconds from that date so we can actually get today's date, if that makes sense. So let us do it. So it's gonna be date time equal date time dot add seconds, and basically we're gonna pass the Unix timestamp, which is gonna be the Unix date, and we're gonna put dot to universal time, and once we have done that, we're gonna return it, return date time, as simple as that. So here let's put it sets the time to 1st of Jan 1970, add the number of seconds from Jan 1st of Jan 1970, and then here we return it. Okay, perfect. So once we have done that, and we could actually the expiry date. Now let's ask the validation that we need to do. So if the expiry date is bigger than date time dot UTC now, so what this means is that the refresh token has actually expired and we cannot actually utilize it to generate a new one. So we're gonna put return new auth result, and basically the auth result is gonna take errors, so we're gonna add an errors to it. So is success equal false, and the errors equal new list of string, new list of string, and the first one is gonna be we cannot, or we can say refresh token has expired. So another, the JWT token has not expired because it's still within the expired date is less than the actual time. So JWT token has not expired, so we cannot refresh it. So that's it here. Let's save this, and now let's continue. So here the first condition is checking if the JWT token has expired, because if it's not expired, why do we need to generate a new one? So the next step is basically we need to check the refresh token if that's expired or not. So, and we need to check if it actually exists inside our database or not. So check if the refresh token exists, and if it actually exists we can do more checks, but now first of all we need to check if it exists. So far we can call it does exist. Jada, now we can call it refresh token exist equal await underscore unit of work refresh tokens, and let us add a new method which check it basically only on the refresh token. So we're gonna get by refresh token. We don't have this method right now, so let's add it. And basically what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be passing the refresh token that we have from it, which is gonna be token request.dto .refresh token. So token request.dto .refresh token. So let's create this method. Let's save this here and let's go back to the data service, and inside the iRefresh token repository we're gonna return a task of a refresh token, and we're gonna take a string which is gonna be the refresh token. Okay, great. Now let's create this method. Let's copy this, save, and let's go to the repository and let's create it here. And basically it's gonna be public async task refresh token, and basically right now let's just copy this because it's faster, and then we'll change it. So we don't want to return all of this, so here first of all it's gonna be get refresh token, and instead of a list we're just gonna return null for now. And instead of this, what we're gonna be doing is it's gonna be x dot token equal to refresh token, and we're gonna return first or default async. Okay, let's do this as well. Maybe someone changed it, I'm not sure, so let's make it to lower, and this one as well dot to lower. Okay, I think that's enough. And now if we go back to our controller, accounts controller, I think that should be it. So what we're gonna be doing now, we need to check if this object is gonna be empty or not. So if refresh token exist equal null, it means that it's not a valid refresh token. So we need to return similar to this one an auth result. So let's copy this and let's paste it here, and instead of this one we're gonna say invalid refresh token. As simple as that. So now we have done that. What we need to do is if it actually the refresh token exists, we need to see if that timing for it is valid or not. So we need to add here check the expiry date of a refresh token. So how are we going to do that? We already have the object. So if refresh token exists dot expiry date is less of date time now dot UTC, or UTC now should be bigger than refresh token. No, so if the expiry date of the refresh token is bigger than UTC now, yeah, it means that it is a variable. So we need the opposite. So because okay, so let's make it like this. So if date time now is bigger than this, it means that it has expired, because the time now is bigger than the expiry date time. So we can put here invalid refresh token, or we can put refresh token has expired. Please log in again. Okay. So now that we have checked the time, the next step is we need to check if it has been used or not. So check if refresh token has been used or not. So how are we going to do that? It's very simple. We already have it from before. So we're going to put if refresh token exists that is used. We cannot use it again because it has already been used. Let's copy this, paste it here, and we can put refresh token has been used. It cannot be reused. Perfect. Once we have done that, the next step is we need to check if it has been revoked. So if check refresh token if it has been revoked. So if refresh token exists.is revoked, we cannot use it. So let's copy this, and basically what we need to say here is refresh token has been revoked. It cannot be used. Perfect. Let's save this. Now that we have checked this, the next step we need to check if the ID that belongs to this JWT token, to this refresh token actually belong to the JWT token. So if you remember, let's go back here to the actual entity of the refresh token. We have saved here the JWT ID, and we said every time we generate a new JWT token, we're going to take this ID and save it inside the table that has the information for the same refresh token that belongs to the JWT ID, to the JWT token. So right now, the next check that we need to do, we need to make sure that the ID that it is with the JWT token is exactly the same one that belongs to the refresh token. So we need to make sure that the refresh token, because every refresh token belongs to a JWT token, so we need to make sure that the ID of the refresh token that has been sent to us match the ID that the refresh token has. So right now, how do we check this? So it's going to be very easy, because we have already implemented the principles and we already have got the GTI from before. We can utilize it again. So var GTI equal principal, because we have already did all of the checks previously. We're gonna get the claims, and we're gonna get the single or default, and basically here we need to search through the claims to get the GTI ID. So it's gonna be x dot type equal JWT register claims name dot GTI, and then we're gonna take the dot value. Perfect. So once we have done that, now we need to check if the stored basically the refresh token that actually exists meet equal to this one. So if refresh token exists dot JWT ID equal to the GTI, actually it's not equal. So if not equal, we need to send an error. And let's take this, and we're gonna say here refresh token does not match the JWT token. The refresh token reference does not match the JWT token. Okay, perfect. So now that we have checked all of that, the next step for us is we need to actually process this. And once we actually process this, we need to generate a new, let us fix the catch, and then we can actually do all of the processing. So here gonna be exception EX, and we're just gonna return null for now. We're gonna have to do better error handling, but for now we're just gonna return null. And let's add a to do. Add better control, better error handling. Okay. Let's add a logger. So log, what's the logger here? We need to pass the logger to this method. Did we even have a logger? No, we don't. We'll do that later. So here, let us just add to do as well. Let's remove this and add a logger. Okay. We don't really need this right now because we're not logging anything out. So the next step here is, as we said, we need to start processing because we did all of the checks that we need to do. Okay. So how are we going to be starting the processing? There's a couple of steps that we need to do. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to actually mark this refresh token, because basically what we did here is we have did all of the checks. We made sure that the refresh token is valid. So we need to mark that this refresh token is being used. So we're going to be utilizing the same thing. So here it's called refresh token exist. So I'm going to make it refresh token exist dot is used equal true. And now what we need to do is we're going to make await underscore unit of work dot refresh tokens dot update mark refresh token as used, and we're just gonna pass the refresh token. And now we need to create this method. So first let's go back to our data service inside our iRepository, and here it's gonna be task bool, and it's gonna take basically the refresh token, and we're gonna call it token or refresh token better. Refresh capital T. And now let's implement this. So let's take this, copy, and now let's go to the repository and we create one here. So it's gonna be public async task. It's gonna be bool, and let's do this. Let's copy this one and let's paste this. This is gonna be false, and this is gonna be, oh, why do we have to? Okay, let's remove this. Okay, mark refresh token as used. This is gonna be here, and then what we're gonna be doing here is it's gonna be dot token, and this is gonna be var token, and what we're gonna be doing here is if token not equal to null, so actually if it equal to null, we're just gonna return false, else we're just gonna put token that is used equal to refresh token that is used and return it true. And then I think this is gonna be correct. Okay, and now let's go back to our action controller. Yeah, and once we did that, we're gonna put await underscore unit of work dot complete async. And now once we have done this, let's do this. If var result update result equal, and once we have done that, we're gonna put if true. If update result is true, we're gonna do this. If not, we're not gonna do this. And basically, let's do this right now. Let's do this here, and here we're gonna basically return null, or we're just gonna call it error in the processing. We're gonna say error processing request. We're gonna make it as generic as possible. So now here what we're gonna be doing is we need to generate this new method, this new token. So how are we gonna do that? We already have the method to do that. So it's gonna be first we need to get, let's see if we got the DB user here. Let's check, we don't, so let's do this now. So get the user to generate a new JWT token. So how are we gonna be doing that? Very simple, var db user equal await underscore user manager dot find by email async, or find by ID because we have saved the ID, and we're just gonna pass from the refresh token that we currently have dot user ID, because we user ID. And once we have that, we need to check if db user is not equal to null. Okay, so if we're gonna same thing, copy this, paste it here, and So this one, if it is equal to null, we need to stop. Else basically we're just gonna generate a new JWT token. So var token equal tokens equal generate JWT token, and it's gonna take basically the user, which is gonna be DB user. So here we're just gonna put generate a JWT user token. And then once we have done that, now we need to return them. So return is gonna take auth result, new auth result, and basically let's put this here. And this auth result, first of all, it's gonna take the token, which is gonna be tokens equal tokens dot JWT token. Oh, we need to make it await. And the next one is going to be success equal true, and then it's going to be refresh token equal tokens dot refresh tokens, and there's not going to be any errors. So let us fix this how it looks so it will look acceptable. So success equal true and refresh token here. Perfect. So once we have done that, this is all of the validation that we need to do. Now let us go back and update the rest of the methods. So now let's go back up to the action that we had, which was this one. And now what we need to do, we check if the result equal null for any of, because the validation has failed, we need to return a bad request. And we're gonna say, we're gonna create a very generic response. We're gonna say token validation failed. That's it. Failed. Else what we're gonna be doing is return okay with the result. As simple as that. So let us do a quick recap of what we have done here. So so this one here, verify token, we need to make it first awaitable. Yeah, that's correct. So let's review this action here. So the first thing that we done is we created this action, and inside this action we are taking the token request DTO, which contain the JWT token and the refresh token. First we're checking if this model is valid based on the two requirement, which is this one. Let's open it up and see them. Token request, so it's going to be token is required and the refresh token is required. Once we have done that, we're going to this method called verify token. Let's go to this method. Inside this method here, first we're creating a token security handler, JWT security token handler, which is going to allow us to do some security checks on our token. The first thing is we need to validate that string or the object that we have received is an actual JWT token. So this is what we're doing here. We're passing the JWT token. We'll have the token parameters that we have already set, and if it is, we're just popping out a variable called security validated token. If it's not valid, it's going to be null. If it is valid, it's going to contain an object inside of it. So this is what we're doing here. We're going to see if the validated token, first of all, is not null, and if it matches the JWT security token. If it does, we're saving it inside a variable called JWT security token. If this failed, basically we're just passing it out as null. If not, we're actually going here and checking the algorithm of this token to see if it matched the algorithm that we utilized in order for us to generate in the first place our JWT token. If it does, it will continue. If not, it will return null. Second of all, we're actually generating the expiry date of our JWT token. So the expiry date of the token is in UTC. So first of all, we're actually getting the UTC, the expiry date, from the claims by utilizing the principal claims one, and we're getting the, based on the claim name, we're getting it. And once we have done that, what we're doing is we're converting from Unix time to date time, utilizing the method that we have created. And then once we have created this method, we're getting the time. Once we have gotten the time, we're checking if the expiry time is bigger than the UTC time. Right now, if it is, it means that the JWT token has not been expired yet, so we should not generate a new one. Then what we're doing is we're actually getting the refresh token based on the refresh token that exists to see if it actually exists inside our database. If it doesn't, we're just sending an invalid one. If it does, we're checking the expiry date for it to see if it's actually within the time frame. And then once we have checked that, we actually then check if that refresh token has been used or not, and then if it has been revoked or not. And then once we have done that, we're actually checking if that JWT token ID match the refresh token ID, JWT ID. If it actually matches, we can continue. If not, we're sending an unsuccessful, basically auth result with a success equal to false, similar to what we have been doing before. And then basically, once we have done that, all of these checks, we make sure that the token is valid and all of the information that we have are correct information. And then we're actually going through the next process, which actually marking the refresh token as been used, and then basically generating a brand new refresh token utilizing the same method as we have done before. And once we have done that, we're just returning an auth result. As simple as that. I know there's a lot of steps, but because this is going to be related to authentication and authorization, so there's a lot of security checks that we need to do in order for us to make sure that our system is safe. So once we have done that, let us do .NET build. Okay, perfect. And let us right now do .NET run. Great. And let's go back to Insomnia. And what we're going to be doing here, we're going to add a new request, and we're going to call it refresh token. And we're going to make it a post, and the body is going to be of JSON. And we're going to do create, and basically let's take the same path of this one. We're just going to update it. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code, get the name of the action, and I think it was called refresh token or generate token. Let's check. Yeah, it's called refresh token. So let's put this here, and inside of this one it's gonna take, let's see, what is it gonna take? It's gonna take a token and a refresh token. So token, and it's gonna take a refresh token. Perfect. And what we can do is we can just take these ones. I'm sure they are expired by now. So let's take this token here and paste it into the refresh in the token. And now let's go back here and let's take this refresh token. And if everything goes through, we should get a brand new token and a refresh token. So let's send this request. Is it running? Yes, let's send this request. And we got the token validation failed. I wonder why. Let's check. Token validation failed. Token validation failed. Okay. So instead of overriding this, let's just return the result as is. Okay, let us stop this here. And let us a breaking point, and let us run this. Okay. Perfect, it's running right now inside the debugger. Let's go back to our Insomnia and let's send this request again. Okay, now let's step one by one. So the principal, okay, it's failing on the principal. Okay, let's check why. Let's put EX, and let's put here just console.writeLine EX.message, and let's put this here, and let us run this again and see what is the error. It could be as simple initialization that we might have missed. Okay, let's go back to Insomnia and let's send this, and let's see what's the issue. Okay, it goes here, token validation handler. So the token exists, the token validation parameters, maybe these is the issues. Okay, seems to be fine. Let's check this. Let's continue. Okay, what's the error here? Lifetime token is expired. The lifetime validation has failed. System.time. Current system.time. Okay. Okay, let's do one more thing before we delve into more debugging. So let's send this. So let's run this. Let's send this. Okay. Let's get this one. Let's put this here. Let's get this one. Let's put this here. And let's send it. Token has not expired, so it's actually passing through. So let's send it again. So let's give it a few moments. And we got a refresh token because it has expired. I think it was the issue with the other one. So because it only lasts for 30 seconds, now we can make sure that it's actually running as it should be. Okay, perfect. Perfect. This is what we wanted to see, and it's working as it expected. Great. So basically in this video what we did is we have implemented the refresh token functionality, and we have tested it, and we have created the full loop basically from generating a JWT token into regenerating another JWT token based on the refresh token that we have created with the first one, and we have added all of the conditions that we need to do. Thank you very much for watching. Please add all of your questions in the description down below, and like and share and subscribe to the channel if you like this video. It will really help the channel. Have a good day.